So hi there everyone, welcome to this third session, part of our series on personal statements. So today's session is just about bringing it all together. So we've done sort of all of the key bits of content in the main paragraphs and sections, and today we're just looking at kind of how you bring that all together and how you sort of do an introduction, conclusion, and make sort of a finished product. So really all of our objectives are kind of, today are sort of looking at how personal statements should be structured, identifying that content for your introduction and conclusion, and then hopefully being able to kind of go over your personal statement and sort of evaluate what you've got currently. So we'll start with looking at the content and starting with the introduction. Before we go any further, I just wanted to kind of highlight again our e-learning module, which has got sort of some worksheets and things that you can write notes on, and will include a lot of this information that Shannon and I are going to give you as part of the talk, but sort of as written resources as well. So if you want to kind of follow along and write things down, you could download those for free and kind of use those to make notes as we go through. But I will pass over to Shannon just to cover a little bit of sort of introduction.
Thank you. So yeah, hi everybody. So as you can see, and you hopefully you would have seen this before if you've watched the other webinars, this shows you a bit of an idea of what your personal statement should look like and what we would kind of recommend it look like. And like Emma just showed on the slide previous, it's well worth having a look at that e-module and using that as some kind of helpful guidance. So we're going to be talking about the introduction and the conclusions. As you can see from this, it is a small number of words, and our advice would be that you would have maybe thought about the kind of main content, possibly even before writing those. And yeah, so let's have a little bit of a chat a bit more about that. So this is what we would advise for your introduction. So why are you interested in the course? Why is that something that you've chosen? What do you enjoy about that subject area? Which you would have written about in the main body as well. And then I guess what you are looking forward to study further. So kind of showing that enhanced passion for a subject area. So it might be that you've looked at some of the things that you would be studying maybe more so than what you might currently be studying. It might be that you want to study something completely new and that's what you've applied for, and so writing about some of those kind of key topic areas. And these are some of the things that you may have seen these in other sessions actually that you've done with us, but this is what we would encourage you to be thinking about. So when we speak to students about choosing a course in general, we speak to them about kind of thinking about, what are the kind of things that they enjoy, what are you good at, what are your kind of future goals? Do you have a particular career in mind, a particular job role in mind, and so on. So yeah, I guess if you are struggling to think of examples, then that's probably not a good indication as to that being the right course. Hopefully you'll have loads of amazing examples because that's something that you're really passionate about, and if you're struggling, that should probably kind of spark you to be thinking, is this the right course? Is there something that's more appropriate? Is there something that goes into more detail about an area that I'm really interested in, and so on. But yeah, I guess a combination of those three things is probably going to be that ultimate option for you. I don't know if you have anything to add, Emma. I'm just talking away.
No, I'd agree. I'd say, yeah, if you really struggle with putting that in an introduction, that probably means you haven't picked the right course. So you should really maybe go back and just check that kind of it is the right one for you and it fits some of those things. And that's why it's important to put it in your introduction, because actually sometimes writing the personal statement helps clarify that is what you want to do. And
you'd find that when you're writing that main body as well, and you're getting those big kind of more detailed examples together, and you might think that, does that really kind of pair nicely with that subject area or that course? And same with noticing gaps as well, which probably has been spoken about already, but helps you to kind of realise, oh, do I have enough experience there, or are my skills transferable? Is there more I should be doing prior to kind of applying? So there's that as well. But yeah, thank you. Some tips on what to avoid. So Emma and I and all of our colleagues have read many personal statements, as would your teachers have, and I mean, where your personal statement goes to is to an admissions tutor at a university, and in their time they would have read thousands of personal statements. So I think it is a really tricky document to write. I don't envy anyone who's writing one. I did mine, and I'm happy I don't have to really readdress that again. But yeah, just a couple of things that we would recommend avoiding, just because they're things that are quite common and seen quite a lot of, and then also some of these things are just things that maybe on well, it says it there is a pet hate for an admissions tutor on the slide. So yeah, some of these sentences are things that are used just really frequently, so it would be best to kind of steer away from them. From a young age is probably the main one that I read a lot. But yeah, and there's a few. I'm applying for this course because. You don't have to put I'm applying for this course because you would have already and you will be already kind of explaining how passionate you are about it, and that then makes it quite clear why, if that makes sense. But yeah, and the one I alluded to as a pet hate is quotations. A lot of admissions tutors don't really like those. I've only ever seen, I think I've seen one personal statement with a quotation that I liked. So, and that was, again, I mean, that's even just down to personal preference as well. But yeah, I think these are just things to avoid and to think about. And the best thing to do is kind of state your interests and kind of move on. Like we saw, the structure, it's a really your introduction is a really small part of your personal statement, as is the conclusion.
I would probably just add that, like, thinking about, you might find example personal statements that use quotes a lot. I think that's maybe more popular in American universities. I don't quite know, but they write individual statements for each university they're applying for, whereas you've got one, and they kind of want to hear from you. I think I remember hearing an admissions tutor say, I don't really care what someone else said, like I want to hear what you're saying, because this is about your application, about you as a person, should be individual to you. And I guess that's also why you don't need a long preamble, because it's not a long essay. You've only got like a side of A4, so really you just want to get straight into it rather than kind of spending a sentence kind of getting into the statement. And if you find it hard to write, feel free to write a longer introduction, but then be prepared. Maybe I've had students like that I've helped cut down their personal statements when they're too long, and often one of the first things I do is like just delete the first sentence of their personal statement, because often it is like I'm interested in studying this course because, or something like that you think actually you could just get straight into it, and you don't really need that. And Shannon's probably done the same when we've looked at people's statements. That's usually often where you kind of look to cut word count down.
Definitely. And I think I guess that's another reason why I would say, well, maybe this is my personal kind of preference, but I would say you want to kind of write those main examples first, and those are kind of where you want, that's where you want the writing to be, basically. And as you can see here, like it's a good idea to kind of remember not just kind of dwell and spend too much time on that section. And I mean, like I just said, you want to save space for the main content of your personal statement, and that main body text should just be really a couple of lines. Oh, this is what I've been saying. I have seen this presentation before as well. But yeah, so admissions tutors also recommend to write your introduction last. So yeah, I guess kind of reiterating what I've kind of said as well. If you're really struggling, there's no right or wrong. So I know I'm kind of we're giving advice, and if you find writing chronologically and in order preferable, then by all means go ahead and do that. I'm not telling anyone to not do that, but it's just I guess personal preference and advice. But yeah, you want the main body and that main bulk of your personal statement is going to be your amazing examples and kind of showing off. So you might find it easier to write that introduction last, because you'll know what you're introducing, I suppose. So just a little tip, but not a must. You can write however you feel most comfortable. So here's an example. Shall I read it out loud, Emma?
Yeah, should we go through it? That's
yeah. So my interest in law originates from my interest in justice and rewards. Human behaviour is always alternating, and law is able to constantly focus on the rights of people and the bettering of society. So just it's really simple 2 sentences to really then go into the main body of their personal statement for that example. So am I speaking about strategy?
I think you are. Yeah, sorry. Distracted you by...
So you went to go and I thought, oh, Emma's going to start. So this is a really quick couple of slides, guys. And again, hopefully this is just recapping on the previous sessions and that you hopefully would have seen. So in terms of structuring your personal statement, you saw the kind of slide a bit earlier, which shows like the introduction and kind of main body where your examples are and so on. So just a reminder, oh, I thought I clicked, but I hadn't. Hopefully you would have thought about all those different examples that you have. Emma, I don't know if it's worth just recapping on what each of the types of curricula are.
Yeah, so basically, hopefully, as Shannon said, you've already seen this before. That'll be in our previous sort of webinar recordings, but very quickly, so you've got that super curricular, which is kind of the most important bit really, which is why it's kind of more detailed examples. You have more word count for that, and that is sort of things you've done outside of school, kind of in your own time that relate to the subject. So if you've gone to taster days, taster lectures, you've gone to particular like exhibitions or things to do with that subject, things like that. Then we've got the core curricula, which is probably one of the easier ones to fill out because this is relating to what subjects you do at school or college and how those relate to the course you want to study. So if you're studying something similar or almost the same subject, that's quite easy. If they're a bit different, there's still sometimes things you can pull out, and that's kind of what we covered in our previous session. And then you've got extracurricular, which is often the one that people are probably most kind of familiar with, and that is what sort of stuff you do kind of outside of your lessons that is just kind of additional skills and experience you've got. So like work experience or part-time job, volunteering, anything you've done, say you've organised events at the school or been involved in like things like mentoring, that kind of thing. So it's like non-subject specific outside of class stuff. But yeah, we kind of covered those in our previous sessions. So do go back and watch those videos if you want a bit more of a recap of those.
Thank you, Emma. And yeah, as Emma said, as you can see, that super curricular is where you want those kind of main, really detailed examples. So yeah. The ABC rule, so this has also been covered in previous sessions, but just to recap, this is a good kind of rule of thumb when you're thinking about writing about your examples. So you think of the activity, so what is it that you've done or experienced, what skills and knowledge have you gained from that, so that's the benefit, and then how does that link back to the course that you're wanting and hoping to study. So that's the activity, benefit, and course, the ABC rule. And this is just an example of that rule in practice as well. So you can see A is the activity, so drama studies. B is like the benefit and what that student has got from that, so confident and persuasive speaker. And then they've highlighted kind of how that kind of impacts or will impact the course and that kind of subject area. So I'm going to pass over to Emma now.
Thank you. So we've done introduction, we've done a bit of a recap just in the middle there, kind of covering those middle sections of the statement. So now you're on to your conclusion. So what do you include in it and kind of how should it be written? This really is where you're bringing everything together and trying to sort of summarise everything that you've said previously. So it's not really where there's any new information. Hopefully you're already familiar with that concept from writing essays and things as part of your like coursework or assignments, homework, that kind of thing, that the conclusion is not really any new information, but sort of bringing together stuff that you've already said. So really the purpose of it is to kind of reinforce why they should pick you as a student, and you do that by highlighting sort of some of the things that the course is going to give you, basically. So is there like a specific career that this course is going to help you get to? That could be through specific training. So if you're training like to be a nurse, for example, that's very closely linked to your career. But say you just are interested in working in business, like you could just say, you know, that's going to give you the skills required to progress in a business career. It doesn't have to be a very specific job, it can be a bit more broad if there's specific skills you want to get. So maybe there's further study you want to do, and don't worry, like if you say you're thinking of doing further study and then later when you do your degree you change your mind, no one is going to like go back in your personal statement and hold you to it and say, you said like 3 years ago before you did this degree that you were going to do a master's or whatever it is. It's more like if you think that might be something you'd like to do, or you'd like to just progress your knowledge in that subject, and you might want to go on to do more sort of training afterwards, you can always say that and say, this is going to help be sort of one step on the way to developing my knowledge in this subject and maybe working towards further training or another course. And that's kind of where that skills and knowledge bit comes in. So skills and knowledge probably crosses over both those other areas, but that's if you really don't know what career you want, you have no idea if you want to do further study. So I was like that student, I just picked a subject I liked, but I didn't really have any like job plans or any ideas what I wanted to do. So I just said, like, I'm really looking forward to studying history, which is what I did, further, and kind of enhancing my knowledge of the subject and learning more and developing my skills as a historian, or and sort of analysis skills. And so if you really don't know, you can just kind of say, like, it's fine to say you're really just interested in learning more about the subject and developing those skills in the subject, because I know there's like, it feels like there's a lot of pressure when you're young to like know what you want to do, and a lot of people don't. I certainly didn't, and even when I graduated I didn't. I just tried lots of different jobs and then ended up in one I liked by doing different things. So it's fine to not have a full plan. Like if you've got a plan, that's really great and that's helpful. If you don't, just focus on the skills and knowledge that you want to get, really. I don't know if Shannen had anything else to add in there.
No, I think you're spot on. I was trying to remember what I wrote as my conclusion, and I actually can't remember at all, which is terrible. But no, I think, yeah, you've covered it, Emma.
Yeah. This is just a nice picture. I liked this picture. I just took it off the UCAS website, and actually I would suggest, you know, if you're really stuck, UCAS has got so much information on, as well as, you know, putting your application through there. They have loads of advice and guidance on personal statements. And that's kind of why they've highlighted there, you know, it's really the conclusion is just answering that question, why should you be offered a place on that course? So they want to see like you are interested in it, or it's going to help you in some way. It's a good idea in the conclusion, tie it back to what you might have written earlier and be future focused, to talk about your future, or kind of what that university experience is going to be like. So if there's particular things about university that you're looking forward to, you could put that in there. So I'd say this is one thing you could be doing if you've got that worksheet handy. Have a go maybe at writing 2 sentences, and you can tie them together afterwards. Think of like a main reason why you want to study that subject. Kind of what is that main focus? That might even be looking back at the introduction to see if there is that main reason there. And one thing you'd like to do after the course. So whether that is career, further study, or just knowledge you want to gain. If you get really stuck, write those 2 things as bullet points, and then try and flesh them out and make them into sort of a conclusion. I'd say that's a good place to kind of start in how to structure that conclusion. So if you're a bit stuck, sort of do this activity, have a go, maybe chat to someone about it and have a go at writing, coming up with 2 ideas to cover those 2 areas, and that should help you sort of write something. So this is someone who's done sort of a conclusion. It's just an example. There's plenty of other ways to write it. This person has basically said, you know, they hope to fully immerse themselves in political activities and societies. which is a big part of university life. Hopefully you've been to sessions maybe with school, or you've been to universities. You might have come to University of Hertfordshire. I had more sessions from us sort of in school where we've talked about, you know, university isn't just the course, it's kind of all the bigger experiences you get. So it's about being part of societies, or the careers links they have, maybe study abroad, things like that. So this person's really picked out, that's when we said, you know, what is the key part of the university experience you're looking forward to? They've picked out actually societies and being part of like wider university life is really important. But they've highlighted its sort of political activities they want to be involved with. So they go on to say, through my studies at university, I look forward to further understanding how politics works around the world. So now they've gone on to the course, what they're looking forward to learning. And then finally, after completing my degree, I hope to achieve be active in politics, either through a government career or potentially as a parliamentarian. So here they've almost, you don't have to cover every single one of those points, but they've kind of covered what they're looking forward to at university, sort of wider university experience, what they're looking forward to learning on the course, something they want to learn, and then they've linked it to a future career. So they've covered all three. You don't have to do all of that if you don't have answers to all of those, but it kind of gives you a nice example of how all three of those would look. So they've kind of really brought everything together in the conclusion there. And this is something I think I sort of hinted at in a previous slide, but this is one final kind of thought, one final piece of advice in terms of getting that conclusion together. What you could do is something that UCAS call the necklace approach, or like the chain approach, basically where you link up the introduction and conclusion. So if your opening sentence says one thing, maybe re-reference that in the closing sentences. So if there's that particular reason you're doing the course, it's fine to kind of reiterate it. Don't have to write it in the same words, obviously, but kind of say a similar thing or link back to it, because then it shows that it's something you genuinely believe and feel, because you're kind of sort of focusing on that, and your statement is kind of nicely rounded, and it sort of reinforces kind of that point that you were trying to make. So for example, if you're saying, you know, I'm just really interested in studying this course because I want a career in politics, you could then, in the introduction, you then link that back to the conclusion, for example. And that's just how that works. So it's quite a simple concept, but that can make a personal statement seem really well thought out and well kind of structured, because you're like, oh, that person's kind of referencing stuff they've talked about before and kind of linking it all together to make it kind of one whole thing. So that does look quite effective. So if you're able to do that and that helps you, I think that's quite a good bit of advice. And this is where basically, hopefully, if you've watched all three sessions, you should have some notes. I really advise, like, if you haven't written notes, maybe go back and watch them, write sort of ideas down as we go through, have a look at what you've written down. You know, have you got enough examples for each section? Have you got enough information? If you don't, there is still time. You know, see if there's any open days coming up at universities or taster lectures. A lot of things are run online now, so you could find additional experiences or just additional things to add in, or find someone to talk to. I think that's always really helpful, like a tutor, a teacher, parent, carer, or even like a close friend, someone who kind of knows you or knows things you've done. Because they might pick out things that you just haven't mentioned or haven't thought to mention. That happens. You know, Shannon and I have been in a lot of schools and read a lot of personal statements, and we're always having conversations, because it's awkward. Like, no one likes talking about themselves, especially like writing an essay about yourself feels weird. And we're always having conversations with students who will kind of not have much in their statement, or they find it difficult to write something, and then we start asking them about things they've done, and they've done loads of cool stuff which they haven't mentioned at all. And we're all like, why haven't you put this in? This is really good experience, it's fantastic. And Shannon's nodding, because this is exactly what happens every time. And I understand, because I would probably do the same. Luckily, I haven't had to read my personal statement for a long time. I don't even know where it is now, which is a good thing, you know, because no one really likes writing them. But like, it's yeah, there's probably loads you've forgotten, because I think individually we're sometimes quite hard on ourselves and find it difficult to kind of highlight the stuff that we've done that we're really pleased with or proud of. So having just another person to chat to, and like Shannon and I don't see these students lots, we kind of see different students each time, so we don't know them that well. So if you've got someone you know quite well to chat to, they probably know loads of stuff that you've done and that you can include. I don't know if there's anything else that we could add in there, Shannon, or other advice you wanted to give?
No, I just think that conversations are really important, and like I think the other thing that I experience a lot, and I know Emma, you would have experienced the same, is we'll be talking to a student, and we would often have a conversation before we read the personal statement and ask kind of some of the things that we would expect to be in there. So, oh, what is it that you're looking to study? Oh, why do you like that subject area? And so on. And we have these conversations, and you can see the student is really excited and passionate about that subject area, and then you read the personal statement and that excitement and passion isn't coming across, and they haven't, like Emma said, haven't put down examples that they've just told us about. And so I think talking about it is really helpful. And like Emma said, I mean, something they made us do in school, which was a long time ago, but something they made me do with my peers was to just write a little bit about each other. And then your friend could use it if they wanted to, or could not, but it was just to try and get us thinking how other people will see us, because it is quite uncomfortable kind of really bigging yourself up and writing how amazing you are, but it's important, and that's what the personal statement is for, just like a job application. So it was just, I guess the idea was that we were trying to see ourselves through other people's eyes, and with all them like lovely positive things that your friends would say about you. I think just having those conversations and doing multiple drafts and all those kinds of things. Definitely.
Yeah, actually, I like that idea. Get someone who and get them to sort of write something about you, because you always actually learn something interesting about yourself, maybe because we're not fully aware of how other people see us, and sometimes someone's like, oh, that's a strength of yours, and you're like, oh, I never would have thought that. So that is quite a good idea. So we'll just go back to this, like, if you like the look of that worksheet, don't feel compelled to use it. We've based our sessions on the content of this e-learning module, because kind of we put this together, so we've used sort of a lot of our knowledge and resources to put the written resources together, as well as to do this session. But if you feel like that might be helpful, or you want any recaps, do scan that code. There's lots of downloadable things on there, but if not, write your notes how you want to, but that's just kind of a recommended sort of structure on there to kind of help you put your ideas down on paper. And I guess some final top tips, Shannon and I might think of more as we go through, but these are kind of the ones that we often repeat. So don't expect the first draft to be perfect. I think I've read something somewhere that said the average is like about sort of up to 7 drafts before someone gets it perfect, and that doesn't mean they're rewriting the whole thing every time. Like, it might be little changes, but I think that's why we would advise you don't feel too much pressure, or don't spend too much long worrying about getting the introduction perfect and then doing each bit perfectly. It's much more important to just get something on paper, because you'll kind of be amending it and rewriting it anyway. It's almost better just to write something, even if you're not happy with it, get other people to look at it, and then you can start refining it, because it probably won't be perfect first time. There might be ones that are perfect first time, but I don't think I've ever met someone, like mine certainly wasn't. It went through so many drafts, so it's fine that it's not perfect. Very few things are perfect first time. It takes practice. Research chosen course thoroughly. Shannon definitely mentioned this before, in terms of, are you choosing the right course? And part of that also comes down to knowing what the teaching and kind of the course is going to be like. Some subjects are a bit different at uni to what they are at school, so it's important to know if it's not a subject you've done before. Just make sure you know what the course content is, once that you've made the right choice for you, and that you'll be happy on that course. And also then you can write a good personal statement that covers everything you need to say. You can actually speak to admissions tutors, so those are people that read applications. Most university websites have got like contact us sections, or sections where you can actually have a chat with someone, like current uni students, but often admissions tutors are on there as well. And actually, I think sometimes, I wouldn't have thought of this actually as a student. I would have been too scared to do it, but it's like a lot of staff actually kind of like the initiative, that sometimes they get a message from someone like, oh, I was just wondering, what is it you really look for on this course when you're looking through applications, because I bet they don't get as many people asking that as they could, and most universities have got like the ability to speak to someone there within the admissions team, or someone within that department. Do take advantage of that. I think we mentioned ask lots of different people to read it through, as many people as possible. You don't have to take all of their ideas on board, but having lots of different ideas means you get lots of different things to put in. And then even if you're really not sure, like I presume you're going to be watching this because you want to go to university, but if you are still undecided, a key thing is that, you know, you can apply, you can hold a place, you can wait until results day in the summer. And then you can always say, actually, it's not for me, I'm not going to go. I've already got a job lined up, or I've got an apprenticeship lined up. I've decided not to go. But it's much easier to do that than it is to kind of then on results day decide that you want to go to uni. Or if you're kind of weighing up your options, it's kind of helpful to write a personal statement. We mentioned this in our first session, that personal statements actually are part of job applications now, part of apprenticeship applications. So actually writing one, you could then use it for other things, even if you don't decide to go to uni in the end. So anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, that is just such a big one for me. I think, like, I would really recommend, just while you've got the support in school, and you've got that network around you, like, to just write one, because you will use it for something else. If you don't use it for a university application, you will use it and tweak it, and use it for a job application, or, you know, whatever that is. I'm so like 100% you will use a personal statement, so it's just a good idea to write one while you've got that help. And yeah, I mean, I just say that to everybody, because I really do stand by that.
Yeah, I mean, I have various bits of statements that I've written for different jobs over the years, and I kind of keep them, because often you kind of take bits of descriptions of experience and put them in. So yeah, I would second that, what Shannon said, like, it's just useful to have one as like a starting point. So hopefully we kind of covered some of these sort of objectives kind of throughout the series of 3 sessions. So you kind of know why a personal statement's important, kind of how to structure it, what to put in all those different sections, and you've started to kind of evaluate the strength of that, and hopefully kind of feel a bit more confident, if you haven't got all the experience you need, that you can go back and find some of that experience and sort of work on it. So yeah, it's just left for us to say thank you so much for watching these sessions. If you do get any more questions that crop up, you can always contact us through the Aspire Higher website, which you can just get to by scanning that QR code. And look out just for sort of other webinars and other sessions that we'll be running sort of throughout the year, and good luck with your university applications.